Kathleen Rogers, the second wife of David Rogers, not their real names, made the initial appointment for her family. The guidance counselor of her stepdaughter Michelle had referred them to me because Michelle had been cutting school and generally acting remote and upset. You must be Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. So we spoke on the phone. What I'd like to do is hear a little from each of you what you see as the problem, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. We'll try to put it in some context, if that's okay. So whoever wants to go first.
I guess I'll begin. Well, I think you know that you were recommended to us by Michelle's guidance counselor. She's been having some difficulty at school. There have been several incidents this year. The last one was her getting caught cutting classes. Additionally, we're very concerned about the group of kids that she's been hanging out with. There's sort of a fast crowd. We're never quite sure where she is, and so forth. Also, she seems to have this big chip on her shoulder, a lot of anger and hostility, and we're really not sure how to deal with it. And that's principally it.
Okay. So Kathleen, what's your view?
Well, I agree. I mean, there's just a lot of tension in the household, and it's not very pleasant to live like that. And
what's your sense what she's maybe angry about?
well, I don't know.
Okay. So, what's your view, Michelle? Would you agree that there's a lot of tension in the family?
Guess so.
Yeah. Are there some things about what's happening at home that are upsetting you? You want to talk about it?
No.
How about school? You're okay with school, the way things are going?
School's fine. School's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So is there anything that you think would be good for us to change about the way things are going from your point of view?
I wouldn't be so angry if they weren't so...
So what?
so wrapped up in their own, like, little world. It's like, everything has to be just so. Everything is the baby this or the baby that. The baby needs this.
And how old is the baby?
She just turned 2.
She just
last
turned
month.
2. I see. You're saying, what, that the family revolves around the baby?
Seems so.
Let me go back a little bit now and ask about your mother. Now, her name was Diane. And you mentioned before she died in August of 91. Now, tell me a little bit about her background. What was her...
She grew up in Puerto Rico.
So, you look like you like that. Do you?
Mm-hmm.
You think of yourself as part Puerto Rican?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
I am, aren't I?
You sure are.
Right, then.
But that's important to you, that part of your identity?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Have you ever been to Puerto Rico?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Tell me about that.
I went a couple of times during the summer.
Really? Just your whole family went, or what?
No, just me.
Really? How did that happen?
Well, the first time was, just to visit family and stuff, and then after that, my mom got sick, and my parents didn't think that it was the best idea for me to stick around, so they sent me down there.
Now, how old were you when your mother got sick?
10, 11.
So you said you had family down there. Who's down there?
My grandmother was down there. I used to go visit and stay with her, but I also have cousins and
Really?
aunts and uncles.
What's your grandmother's name?
Ava.
Abba.
Well, that's what I called her anyway.
Carmen. Her name is Carmen.
Okay. So she's still in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, but buried.
You mean she died?
Hmm.
Really? How long ago?
3 months ago. February
Really?
15th.
Were you close to her?
Mm-hmm.
Really? How did she die?
She just died.
Really? How old was she?
Mm.
With them, but I'm not happy that Selena just got a tattoo, and that you think that's very cool.
It's one of those that like washes off in 2 weeks.
Adolescents generally don't reveal themselves in front of their parents, so I met with Michelle alone to get to know her better. I thought it'd be a good idea for us to get to talk alone a little bit, because I'm not really sure what's happening here with your parents. I talked to your guidance counselor, and she says, she's known you, she thinks you're basically a terrific kid, but you've really been different the past couple of months. So she was sort of worried about it. That's what she said, why she referred you. And I don't know what you think about that. I mean, you think she should be worried?
I mean, I'm not really doing anything, major. Yeah, I cut a couple of classes here and there, and yeah.
But from what she told me, it's different. Because she said, you've always been a good student. You've been really hassling some of your teachers, cutting in ways that you never did before, and her sense is something's happening. Your parents' fantasies are obviously going wild. I think it comes from really caring about you. So you need to know that.
I mean, I know that a major thing that we're in conflict with is that they don't like the friends that I've been hanging out with lately, but they think that they just assume that just because they're black and they're Puerto Rican that they're doing all these things like that, that's all that we see in the media and TV and stuff, and it's not like that. They're really cool kids, and there's so many things that I can do with them that none of my other friends in the past ever really could understand or could. I feel like I can relate to some of them in ways I was never able to relate with anybody else.
So you feel like you share interests, like you were talking about Carlos and writing poems, and
Yeah.
your other friend,
Yeah.
Serena.
Serena.
So why do your parents, do you think that these kids are going nowhere? Do they know these kids?
No, they haven't even given them a chance.
Really?
They're just going to listen to what, other parents are saying or whatever. Just because they're not from the same neighborhood, right away, that means that there's something wrong with them.
But I mean, you can understand yourself that, because you must see it with other kids, that it's easy to get in with the wrong crowd. It's easy to get into a situation where peer pressure can
Yeah, but that's not
become a
me.
real problem.
That's not me.
Okay, well, I'm just asking, because I don't know you, And because it sounds like there has been a recent change, and that's what I'm trying to figure out, is what happened recently. I mean, I know last time you were saying that At home, the focus seems to be on the baby. But the babies too, I mean, that's not that recent. What do you think is upsetting your parents so much now?
Just how I'm hanging out with Puerto Rican kids.
Why? Why is that so upsetting to them?
I don't know why it's so upsetting to them, but you saw yourself. I mean, when my father was talking about my grandmother, it was like she was a non-person.
He doesn't know how connected you were to her?
What did it sound like?
No, I mean, that's true, but I don't know, I couldn't really tell what that was about. Have you ever talked to him about what that means to you?
No. He wouldn't understand. He wouldn't get it.
Really? Do you miss your mother?
So I miss my mother. Yeah.
Was there something that was triggered when your grandmother died?
My father, like, wants to ignore that it even, like, had any relevance in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I was with my grandmother when I found out about my mother dying.
Mm-hmm.
She was the one that was there for me, not my father. And it should have been him.
Have you ever talked to him about that?
He wouldn't. No.
He wouldn't what?
It's like he's not there.
Okay, but maybe that's the issue. I mean, maybe, you know, maybe you and he just need to get connected in a way that has really been missing for you. I don't know. That's what it sounds like. That he doesn't know where you've been at.
He doesn't even take the time to try and find out either. So how can he know?
Do you remember how you first found out that she was ill?
She called me and Julian into her bedroom and...
Your father wasn't there?
He was working.
Really? And what did she say?
She just said that she said Mommy's sick and not to worry, that everything was going to be fine, but you know, if she wasn't able to do some of the things that she, you know, sometime in the near future that...
Have you ever talked to your father about this?
You know, I was concerned about, you know, upsetting them too much. I thought that it might actually be counterproductive in terms of Diane's well-being.
Before, you made reference to how hard it was. She had a lot of pain in the last period?
She lost a great deal of weight. And do we really have to talk about this?
You know, I think it matters a lot for you and your daughter to share. I know that it's hard.
She lost a great deal of weight.
Are you okay with that? Do you see why it matters for her?
She, in the end, she was in the hospital for about 3 months total. And she gradually became weaker. And course, she was connected up to IV most of the time.
Now, you said before, Michelle, that you had actually been with your grandmother at the time your mother actually died. How did that happen?
Well, they sent me to Puerto Rico. So I was down there when I found out that she died.
Really? How long had you been there?
At that point I was probably there already for almost 2 months. A month and a half.
Do you remember when you found out that she had died?
I feel like it was yesterday.
Really?
I was in Ava's kitchen, and I was cutting up the peppers for the sofrito, because she was gonna make some rice and beans. And the phone rang in the living room, but I could see her. You know, it's like the kitchen, and then there was the living room. And I think I almost knew even when the phone rang, but she picked up the phone and she stood there. And she dropped the phone and she started screaming, oh my God, not my baby. Not my baby. Not you.
I find it's very important to give people the time to work through moments like this. And then what? Did you and your grandmother come up together for the funeral, or how did that happen?
I stayed down there.
What do you mean you stayed down there?
My father called me later on that day and said, he said you might as well just stay the month and wait till your flight at the end of the month to come home.
See, I thought that I gave some thought to whether she should come back for the funeral, and for a while I thought that would be a good idea, but then after thinking about it some more, I thought, well, she's going to be hanging around a funeral home for a few hours and going through all that.
Can I interrupt you? Can I ask you, what are you feeling now about this? I didn't want David to distance himself from these feelings, so I tried to bring him back into the moment. His response came as a complete surprise.
I really had no idea, Michelle, that you felt so strongly.
She was my mother.
Not about your mother, of course, but the whole thing with your grandmother. I had somehow put that behind me, and it seemed so long ago. And I feel very guilty that I didn't tell you about your grandmother's death.
What do you mean?
Well, frankly, I just didn't think it was important at the time.
I don't know what you're you didn't know your grandmother died?
I sort of found out.
What do you mean?
Well, there was this phone message, apparently, that Alicia, my wife's sister, called from Puerto Rico telling us about Carmen's death. And
I came home from school and heard it.
Now this is just recently, right? This is just a few months ago.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I came home from school, I heard it.
Yeah.
And I went to my room, and then Kathleen came home later on, and she played the messages. And I heard her playing the messages. And I expected that afterwards she was gonna, you know, come say something to me or come to my room.
It wasn't her fault. She talked to me about it.
Nobody said nothing.
So when did you talk about it?
We didn't.
Well, I was so busy that week, and I just thought, I thought about Carmen as someone that Michelle had very little, you know, connection with anymore. We don't talk about Carmen. And I remembered it later in the week, and we did talk briefly about it then.
We talked about it. You said, "Oh, by the way, you remember Carmen from Puerto Rico? Well, she died."
I
We really
understand.
talked about it. I was like, "Yeah, thanks for telling me."